right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Wildlife Cake and Cocktails. We've got a great show for you today. We're talking owl conservation with Faunagraphic. We got Matt Wright and Jasmine Zelený here. Now, in honor of our owly show, we're drinking sour owls. It's vodka, creme de cassis, which is a really awesome blackcurrant liqueur, some simple syrup, lemon juice. They said orange water. I had triple sec, which is like, it's an orange liqueur. So there's a bit of triple sec in there, shaken with egg white. So it's pretty close to a sour owl. It's delicious anyway.
It's awesome.
We've also got some really nice gluten-free coconut macaroons and a delicious gluten-free chocolate muffin. So we're ready to go. Returning to the show, Jasmine Zelený. You know her from our first show way back when. How long ago was that? It was like over 2 years ago.
Yeah,
now.
easy.
Yeah,
Around about, actually, I think.
Yeah, getting pretty close to exactly 2 years ago now. Man,
2 years ago.
Yeah,
man. We've been going. She's a UQ Wildlife Science graduate, a snake catcher, and a wildlife photographer, and way more as well. What's been happening? Obviously, it's been a while since we've seen you. You were doing a lot more snake catching when we first hooked up, and obviously doing the wildlife management side of things.
Yes, yeah.
Still in your degree back then?
Yes, I was.
And you've graduated?
I've graduated, yes. So that's awesome, finally.
So you're a UQ Wildlife Science graduate now?
Yes.
Bachelor of?
Yeah, Bachelor of Applied Science, and Wildlife Science was my major.
Fantastic. And since then, obviously, been doing some wildlife management work, a lot of snake removal.
Yes, a lot of snake removal and managing problem birds and things like that.
Managing problem birds?
Yeah,
how did
brush
you...
turkeys.
Yeah,
so it's just part of what the company I work for does now. So it's nice. It's great to do, get a bit more experience, and brush turkeys are fun.
Not everybody's big fans of them. I'm not originally from Queensland. I'm not even originally from this country. So I think they're cool.
Me too, because I'm from Sydney.
Yeah, they do these big windrows that stack up. Yeah, I think it's groovy. People think they're annoying. And you were there at the museum as well for a while as well, working on the
in
collections?
the herb lab.
In the herb lab.
So that was awesome. So it was a lot of just looking after the collections. A lot of I dissect something every morning, so that's fun.
Wow.
Love cutting stuff up.
That's the Queensland Museum.
Yep, Queensland Museum in South Bank. So I'd be up in the herb lab. So I'd start my day dissecting something, which is always great. Before you want to eat anything, so that's good.
You got to dissect like breakfast first.
Yeah. And then also a lot of cleaning up skeletons, auditing the collection, entering new specimens. So really, well-rounded and awesome experience.
So when quickly, when you're doing the stripping down, are you doing it manually or are you using domestic beetles or chemicals?
I wait till we get. When I dissect something, it's so I'm cleaning to get it ready for the domestids and taking off as much as we can. So,
do you want to just quickly explain to the listeners what domestids are? By the way?
Oh, they're little beetles that pretty much eat all of the flesh off a skeleton, which is awesome. They do all the work for you and clean it up. They're great fun. But when you're cleaning up the skeleton after them, you find a lot of their little shells and still beetles in there, and you have to pick them out of vertebrae and things like that. So,
and with fun things like snakes and things with small bones, they will occasionally run away with like a little bone or something.
It's tedious, but it's awesome. It's awesome to do. It's great fun seeing the finished product. I don't articulate them. I'm not that clever, but I clean them up for someone else to do that job. But it's awesome. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's super cool. Wow. And since then, obviously moving into the bird photography side of things quite a lot more in the last few years as well.
Yeah, since I saw you, definitely. Now that I have the gear to do it, it's good. But yeah, a lot of practice over the last 2 years. I was pretty terrible 2 years ago, but
gotten a bit of practice.
It's so much fun. Yeah, no, I love birding. It's incredibly addictive.
Awesome. And also joining us on the WCC couch, we have Mr. Matt Wright from Faunagraphic. He's a long-time naturalist, a photographer, a wildlife rehabilitator, and I understand you got a bit of a soft spot for birds of prey.
Yes, that's where it all started, essentially. I was a really bad reptile photographer at the beginning.
Just like me.
Yeah, because all I had was just a standard camera body and just a macro lens, and I only started taking photos of wildlife in 2014.
Right.
After a holiday with my brother to South Africa, and then I came back and just bought a macro because macros are relatively inexpensive.
Yeah, and it kind of gets you into that range that you want for smaller herbs and
exactly. So, and I didn't have the skill or knowledge even to find a lot of things, so it's just very basic frogs and lizards and stuff.
Good fun.
Yeah, and I think I started it coming into spring, so that was obviously the time where there was a lot more stuff active. So that's where I originally started, and then after summer left and it started getting cold, I didn't know what.
That's how it all begins.
I didn't know what to do. So then I bought a larger lens, and where I live down on the Gold Coast, there's a lot of ospreys. So I spent pretty much the first year of my life with a telephoto lens just photographing ospreys most days.
Which is one of my favourite predatory birds.
Yeah, I love ospreys. I think they're one of my favourite common birds of prey, especially around southeast Queensland. The ability just to dive into the water is pretty amazing and not injure themselves.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. I mean, when we first moved to Australia, I moved down to Melbourne first. We were in the Dandenong Ranges.
Yeah.
Then we moved up to Noosa. When I was before high school, basically. And on the coastline fishing, you see these things. White-bellied sea eagles, very cool. But the way that and the speed and accuracy with which ospreys do that dive is. It's got a bit more speed to it, for sure.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And for the most part, white-bellies are very lazy and they will try and steal things more than doing their own hunting. But
Which I dig as well.
Definitely, yeah. The pirates of the sky.
Yeah.
Osprey pretty much, I think if I look back at my photos, I've probably got about 10,000 osprey photos, and they're really, really bad compared to what I take now.
It's like snake catchers who start out with, you got carpet python photos for days.
Yes, yeah. But after a while, even ospreys become a little bit boring in terms of photographing them. And funnily enough, I haven't photographed them since I've got really good camera equipment. Also, all my photos are just off an old Sigma lens and a sort of mid-range body.
Right.
And then the raptors all disappeared for a while. I think a lot of food disappeared for a lot of our smaller kites and stuff, and I didn't know what to photograph. So then I got into what we call the LBBs, the little brown birds, and then that's when it sort of got a little bit more addictive, chasing all the smaller stuff.
Right.
But yeah, from there, I think about 12 months after I started photographing raptors, I found my first owl, which was a barking owl, which is pretty cool for your first owl. And then that's just when the addiction of owls really started in terms of finding, and not just finding and photographing that a lot of people do. They just want a nice pretty photo and they move on, but just learning more about them was where it sort of took over a bit more than just taking a pic and walking away. So
right, they definitely being nocturnal, stealthy. They are kind of a bit of a mysterious bird for sure. And I guess having to go out and find them at night, and to actually be able to get a good photo at night is probably quite a interesting challenge too.
Oh, it definitely is. And the thing with Australian owls is they're all nocturnal, whereas if you go overseas into Europe and the Americas, a lot of people find and photograph them during the day. A lot of the owls over there are hunting during the day. So, you don't really have to look at any different techniques when you're shooting some of the owls over there, because you're shooting them in the same scenario as you would be any diurnal bird. So, photographing and finding them at night is definitely a challenge. In terms of basic nocturnal photography, it's very easy for people to pick up, but once you get into a bit more advanced stuff, then that's when you sort of start having to think a bit more about it.
So, dude, also, I guess aside from owls, I understand that you're into rescue and rehab of some of these Australian raptors as well.
Yeah, so after I found my first owl, which was the barking owl, a bit about that particular barking owl that I found was a juvenile barking owl. That was the first one I found, and I found its parents a couple of days later. But I sort of was told by a local who I bumped into when I was looking for the barking owls, and she said that a couple of weeks earlier, two of the juvenile birds were actually killed by some teenagers with BB guns.
Oof.
So these barking owls, the male and female, had raised 3 successfully fledged chicks, and then they obviously started to learn to fly and move around, and then a couple of weeks after they'd fledged, 2 had been found with BB pellets in them. So after sort of seeing my first one and realising that these are pretty cool, and finding out that 2 had already been killed, it was a bit of an upsetting situation. And that's when I decided, well, if I can do something to help a little bit, every little bit counts. So that's when I joined a local wildlife caring group, and went and actually did all my basic courses, but raptor rescue and rehab is very specific, and you need specific training to do that. So I signed up and did all my my raptor rehab course. And then the first year I did that was absolutely mental in terms of the amount of birds I was rescuing and releasing. I did do a bit of caring for some of the smaller stuff, in particular southern boobook owls. But in terms of my time management and also the ability to house and keep, I couldn't do large stuff. So I was more short-term care for some of the smaller stuff, southern boobooks, had plenty of Pacific bases. But anything large went to carers who had acreage and stuff like that. So, it was really, really cool. I fell in love with southern boobook chicks because I think the first year that I started, the spring and summer coming into it, I think I counted like 27 southern boobook chicks that came through, just me.
Yeah, wow.
So that was pretty cool. And
that seems like a huge rate.
Yeah, I think most of it is... where on the Gold Coast they were coming from. Gold Coast is terrible for land clearing.
Right.
And obviously a lot of them are just coming from probably spotter catchers and stuff like that. But a lot of them will just, sometimes owls when they first fledge, they may spend a day or two on the ground because they may have gone a bit too early and people are finding them. But for the most part, they're always ones that from trees getting cut down, they realise there's a boobook hollow in there. I think that year in particular, I just had a really good breeding year locally as well.
I've done a fair bit of fauna spotting. Only ever once found a couple of frogmouth chicks.
Okay.
That's it. Have you come across much in your time in the field?
I've not done fauna spotter catching work yet, but I know my bosses had incidents of finding owl hollows.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, a long time ago, but
Yeah.
I don't think it would be super frequent.
Yeah,
but
it seems quite rare, but
Yeah.
I guess
I
it
guess
depends on the area.
where you are,
Yeah.
and food availability and what kind of hollows are around in the area as
Right.
well.
So I guess in those areas where they're being developed, and I guess just Gold Coast in general, higher owl density than some of the areas I've worked maybe.
Yeah, well, when I definitely started doing a lot more rescue work, the main owls that we normally would be getting are the ones such as your eastern barn owl and southern boobook. They're pretty much the main two, because when you start looking at other owls such as mast owl and sooty, they're probably in areas where there's not a lot of land clearing going, especially in the Gold Coast, because you sort of got to move towards the hinterland a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah, I've had plenty of instances where the new hospital went, that when that was getting built, there was a lot of barn owls coming because they're just probably getting flushed from all the noise and all the trees getting cut down. There was even one of the first sightings in the Gold Coast Metro of powerful owls nearly 2 years ago.
Ooh.
That were roosting in between the uni and the hospital.
Yeah,
It was a tiny green space
It was
for
a
them to occupy.
very, very small green space. And I think they had just been flushed from somewhere else that had been probably, the noise has got too much or their tree had been cut down. But they were roosting in a really small green space for a couple of weeks. Coincidentally, there was a flying fox colony there at the same time. So
Maybe they had a bit of prey there.
Yeah.
there was a bit of prey for them as well. But they were only there for a week or two and moved on. So
Right.
yeah, there's not in sort of that surface paradise going through the really built up areas of the Gold Coast. There's not a lot of owls, and yeah, as I said, probably if anything, there's going to be the odd eastern barn owl and southern boobook, and that'd be it. And obviously, moving away from owls, frogmouse, there's tawny frogmouse. Pretty much anywhere they're fairly adaptable tawnies.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where it all sort of begun. And yeah, I've had some pretty cool birds of prey that I've come across and got to work with in terms of helping release and rescue. Pacific bars is probably one of my favourite rescue birds because they're just so dopey when you get into care. And one of the tricks I got taught from the gentleman who did my raptor training was with Pacific bars is they like eating your praying mantids and all those sorts of things, and to get them eating you feed them green beans because they have the same sort of texture
Right.
in terms of
They got a hard casing and a nice snap.
Yeah.
I know my green beans and my mantids.
Yeah. So we fed them a lot of that, and one particular Pacific bars I had really liked mango, so we fed him mango quite a bit.
They're a funny raptor.
That's
They're a really
bizarre.
funny bird.
Yeah.
That's
In every
bizarre.
way, yeah. They're bizarre.
Bizarre
How Pacific
buzzers.
bizarre.
Well, I mean, owls seem to be named quiet, accurately. You got the barking owl that goes woof woof. You got the powerful owl, which is a monster. You got the boo book, which goes book book. Like,
Yeah. It's pretty straightforward.
Why would the buzzer not be bizarre?
Yeah.
And when did you start Faunagraphic? So that's your Queensland-based wildlife photography business. You guys run guided wildlife photography adventures, basically around southeast Queensland at the moment, and onwards and outwards.
Well, we do extended trips.
Yeah.
So
What's the furthest out that you guys kind of do with your extended trips? I know you guys go out fairly far west as well.
Yeah, so it all started just in southeast Queensland doing localised tours like days or the odd couple of day tours. And then it's, I think, around 6 months into it, I had a really good response.
Basically, and these are photography tours. You're going out trying to... are you trying to teach people how to take... use their cameras for wildlife?
We cater for both.
Yeah.
So primarily it was always been started up as a wildlife photography tour, whether it be a day tour or extended tours. But then as not just my knowledge, but word gets out, because most of it's been word of mouth in terms of clientele at the moment, is... we've become quite specialists in being able to find not just those nocturnal birds, but even just some of the daytime diurnal birds we've been coming to.
I saw your guys' photo of the eastern ground parrot. That was incredible.
Yeah.
That was
pretty
fantastic.
Cool.
That was awesome.
Which one of you was that?
we both have
We
photos.
both had one. Jasmine's was actually better.
I was hoping one of you
For
would be
once.
lording it over the other.
No, Jasmine actually got a better one, that one, because her lens was smaller, which actually worked in her.
For
lens
once.
at the time.
Yeah, no,
Sure. It was
that's
the
rare.
lens, right? Yeah.
But,
Don't give me too much credit.
Yeah, so from there, we sort of decided that we might start offering some extended tours, and those extended ones are very much photography biased. So the first year I did 2 extended tours. The first one was out west in the Cunnamulla region, and that was an 8-day tour, and that sold out within a few weeks, which was really exciting, putting that out for the first time.
And the Cunnamulla region is where?
So Western Queensland.
Yep.
So it's about, if you're driving relatively relaxed, you can get out there in 9 or 10 hours from Brisbane.
Okay.
So once you start getting out there, just obviously the region changes, the habitat changes.
Yeah, you very quickly transition through that semi-arid,
you
brigalow
start getting
area.
into, it's sort of about as east as you can go to start getting a lot of those sort of desert birds. So in terms of birds, you get things like major Mitchell cockatoos and Burke's parrots and
Chats.
Crimson chats and yellow chats, orange chats, all those sort of desert birds. So
Very cool.
with staying in the same state, then that keeps you, especially with permit requirements and stuff. And I don't have permits for any other state, so I try and work within the state. But yeah, that was really, really good. And then I put out another one, which, because I'd spent a bit of time up in far north Queensland, and sort of learnt a lot about where things are, I put out a far north Queensland tour, which was in December last year. And that sold out. They actually oversold. I originally was only doing 4 people, but it sold out within 12 hours. Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And then I had another person sort of jump on and say, "Hey mate, can I pretty please come?" And it just worked out well in terms of all the accommodations that I had organised. That he was friends with someone else who had booked, so they were willing to share a room. So that was pretty good, and that was an amazing tour. It's probably my favourite of the tours so far, because I think we had one gentleman who had a camera, but he was more so into his twitching and ticking off things that he'd seen. And we had like 300 species of animal in 8 days.
Wow.
So that was really cool. And then we moved into our second year this year, and I've been a bit more adventurous, and I've come up with 4 tours. So the Western Queensland one again. I put out North Queensland again. And then last year we were lucky enough to spend a bit of time in Tasmania. So now we've got a Tasmania tour.
Wow.
And then I just released last week my Cape York tour.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's up and in the mangroves.
Yeah, so we're going to be that'll be in January, so we're actually going in the wet season. So we're going to be flying in. Don't want to risk driving in that time of year because you might get stuck there for 6 months.
Yeah.
So we're going to be flying into
Didn't that pretty much happen to you guys last time you guys went up north though?
No, it was too dry.
Iron Range is really dry. Even though we got there in early December, I think the wet season just comes a bit later now, so we're pretty lucky.
Yeah. Our aircon broke though.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
It was the other extreme.
But flying in, we're going to fly into Lockhart and spend 7 days, in Iron Range looking for all the really cool endemics up there. So that's my latest tour. But with tours, I don't like offering tours to somewhere I haven't been because I think I don't know, there's just something about going to a place where you haven't been but you're wanting to also charge people to go there as well.
Yeah, particularly if you're going to be the guide and the expert.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I try to avoid offering tours where I haven't been before because I don't want to be trying to show people something when I don't know what it is either.
Yeah, well, I mean, nobody wants to go on a tour when the dude's like, "What the hell is that?"
Yeah, exactly. So I'm always trying to do tours that I've been to and spent a bit of time there myself. So because we've spent a bit of time in Iron Range and we've got a really good idea of what's there and what's around and where we need to go to find things. That's why I decided to do a tour up there last year, and even with the Tassie one, we spent a bit of time there last year. So I'm going as the main guide, but we've got little points of differences on top of other tours that are around because we're utilising the expertise of. For example, Mark Holdsworth, who is essentially Mr. Orange Belly Parrot himself. So he's going to be taking charge in that aspect when we go to somewhere like southwest Tasmania to Melaleuca. He's going to be able to tell the story about the Orange Belly Parrot and give a bit more info than I could probably, or definitely that I could ever provide. So I'm always going to be going to places where I've been, but in some instances, if I can use the expertise of someone who can even add extra to what I can already offer, then I'll always do that as well.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Absolutely. I mean, I guess for everybody who's interested, you can faunagraphic.com.au or you guys are on Facebook and Instagram at Faunagraphic and on Instagram at _Faunagraphic. Somebody beat you to it?
Yeah. Actually, Instagram was just Faunagraphic /_. Then I had a lady who's also known as Faunagraphic over in the UK.
I saw the graphic artist.
Yes, graphic artist.
And actually also does graphic art of birds.
Yes, that's right.
She does all the murals on sides of walls. She actually contacted me a little bit angrily by private message, and she said, "Hey, I'm sick of everyone tagging me and stuff of bird photos. Can you please change your name?" I'm like, I don't really have to, but I will just save face and not cause an issue. So no big deal on my part.
Well, look, I mean, a bit of cross promotion there at the start. Doesn't exactly. And you get to go on a lot of these tours as well, Yaz, or you're going to be pretty busy?
When I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, not really. I'd love to, but
the extended tours not so much, but you do often come on nocturnals or day, and she even does some guiding
myself.
Cool.
Guiding
Had a
for
whopper
when I can't do it. Yeah, she just did a big one the other day. It was like 14 hours of guiding one day.
Yeah,
Really?
It was awesome.
Where'd you go?
Everywhere. All through Brizzy, Bribie, around Caboolture.
Wow.
Big loop. Had a lady up from Tassie, so she got 50 new birds. Three species of owl too.
Wow.
So it was a really good day, and that's not even going into rainforest. We have to do a dedicated rainforest trip next time because there's just not enough time in the world.
Yeah,
when you've never been up here, there's just so much more to see. So
that's really cool. All right. Well, look, we better start talking owls.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's just have a bit of a rundown here for our audience as well, and for myself because obviously I'm more of a reptile nerd. But owls in Australia, we've got 2 families in the order Strigiformes. Now, our powerful owls, barking owls, the bubok, they are in the Ninox, correct?
Yep,
Ninox. So within the Strigidae family, they're true typical owls. Some also known as hawk owls and masked owls and so on. So as we were talking about the barking owl, Ninox connivens, is that correct?
Yeah, conivens.
Connivens. I love mispronouncing scientific names.
Everyone does it.
I love these two. So the barking owl and the boobook, which is Ninox boobook.
Yes.
The barking owl barks and the boobook goes boobook.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty
No
much.
mucking around.
Yeah, right. So the boobook's pretty small and widespread. And on top of that as well, we have the powerful owl here, which,
Yes.
obviously, again, named Ninox strenua, as in strenuous, strong, powerful. So this is our biggest owl. Gets to about 2.2 kilos, 65 centimeters in height.
Yes.
One of the few owls that does your typical hoo-hoo.
That's correct.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's I guess there's a few other masked owls, and is the moorpork as well?
Yeah, so in Tassie, you have Tassie boobook, or some people call it the moorpork. Recently split in terms of like the last few years, so they're Ninox leucopsis.
Okay, and they were once within the southern boobook as well?
Yes, they were lumped in the southern boobook, but at that time they thought southern boobook was Ninox novazelandiae, which is the same as what you would get in New Zealand, which is actually a moorpork. So now they're split as Ninox boobook, and Tassie is Ninox leucopsis. And then you also have Christmas Island hawk owl or boobook as well.
Hey, wow.
And then you also, the rufous owl is our other Ninox. So it's the powerful owl of the north.
Right. And it's got that lovely, rufous kind of maroony colour on the striations on the chest, mixed with kind of a white pattern.
That's right.
And do they have like some ringage around the eyes and a pretty small rounded head?
They do, yeah. So it's very, very similar to a powerful owl in terms of their structure. Slightly smaller, but our second largest owl. And they really just take over and, fill that niche that a powerful would fill down here, but up there.
Right.
Similar call, but a bit lower and quieter.
And a bit more colourful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's our Ninox owls, which includes the powerful, and a lot of people are actually more familiar with barn owls because they are so widespread all over the world. So that's the family Titonidae and the genus Tyto. So that includes the barn owls, the grass owls, the masked owls. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yep.
So the eastern barn owl. This is a fun one. So we might call it Tyto javanica delicatula, Tyto alba javanica delicatula. Like with a lot of stuff, there's a bit of a discrepancy on the taxonomy here. Let's go with javanica delicatula for now. We're definitely going to be talking more about the Tyto owl taxonomy later on in our research section. Also within the Tyto, we've got the Longimembris, the eastern grass owl. They're a bit rarer than the barn owls?
It's just because they have a specific habitat. So they like wetlands, grasslands. They occupy a lot of crops, so sugarcane, things like that.
Right.
So it's more specific habitat requirements.
And the woodland guys can be
if you go to the right area, you will get them.
Yeah, okay.
So.
Very cool. And of course, the sooty owls as well.
Our favourite.
Yeah. So were you guys checking out some sooty owls even this morning? You guys came straight here from out in the field.
You were with Sooties last night.
Yeah, Sooties last night.
And then we're out west this morning, but we'll be going back to some other Sooties tonight because we've got full hollows full of chicks at the moment all over southeast Queensland, so it's all happening.
So are they all regular Tyto tenebricosa?
Yep, Tyto tenebricosa.
Tenebricosa.
So your lesser sooty owl is in far north Queensland.
Okay.
So it's quite interesting. Sooty owl, your Tyto tenebricosa, which some people may call the greater sooty owl, just so it's less confusing. There's distribution is there's a small isolated population in Yungala.
Right.
And then you get them from about around Rocky down, all the way down the coast, down through Victoria. But then you get them in Papua New Guinea.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So that's what that paper we'll go over later discusses, that there's a leapfrog in the distributions, which is really interesting because in the middle of that up north you have Tyto multipunctata, the lesser sooty.
Right. So it's probably a rather recent jump across the PNG.
That's right. And the other interesting thing is they once considered lesser sooty part of greater sooty owl, like it was just a subspecies of tenebricosa, but they did split them. So that's what we've got at the moment is their own species.
And obviously there's quite a lot more to deal with there in the Taito genus. It's,
Absolutely.
there's a whole lot in there. So for people who don't know, the barn owls are actually quite, they're quite striking. They've got that big, wide, white face.
Yep, big facial disc.
Big facial disc, and generally a lot lighter coloured. Kind of got a nice light fawn, beigey coloration, almost kind of creamy on the body with a lot of speckling and stuff.
Yeah.
But hugely variable.
That's right. Well, if you look at the sooties, yeah,
right.
Yeah, so, even if you look at the masked owls, they're probably the owl in Australia. They're our most highly variable owl.
Right.
Easily, because you've got your pale form, intermediate, and dark forms. Up here, and especially in North Queensland, they're very pale. They look like just stocky barn owls that go to the gym. But masked owls in Tassie, which is why a lot of people would like to consider your Tassie masked owl its own species, but people always want to split everything, so they get an armchair tick. But when you see the owl, they're much larger and they're much darker. Yeah. So your females are this really rich, orangey colour, and they're large. They're almost as big as a female Rufus owl.
Yeah, wow.
Whereas our masked owls are tiny up here.
Yeah, right.
So they're really variable across their range, and I think those Tassie owls kind of fill that niche of what our large forest owls do up here, like our powerfuls. So that's their big owl.
Hey, you got to have somebody down there, being a top of the chain predator.
Yeah, that's right.
Nice. And look, obviously, while you guys are out there, you're going to be seeing some stuff that's not so owly.
Yep.
Such as the nightjars.
Yes.
So the nightjars in the order Caprimulgiformes, order Caprimulgiformes. Family Caprimulgidae. Again,
it's a very
yeah, it is, and it's like a really diverse and taxonomically complex group here as well. There's a lot of disagreement amongst people. Some 80 species to sort out within the Caprimulgidae, including possibly the frogmouths on top of all the nightjars as well. Which might be in their own order.
They should be.
Forms.
Yeah.
Definitely in their own family, Podargidae.
Yeah.
But quite likely split out from the Caprimulgiformes into the Podargiformes.
Yeah.
Now what we have a couple here in Australia. We got the marbled and the tawny. Does the pup one make it?
Oh yeah, you get them in
North
Cairns.
Queensland.
Yeah,
you can.
Actually, I think the southernmost would probably be in Paluma, just north of Townsville. I think you get some puppy one there.
Yeah.
But I'd say that's pretty much pushing it in terms of the southernmost point of their range.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And those are all within the genus Podargus. There is another genus as well, the Batrachosturus, which I think in Africa and Southeast Asia and definitely not here.
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
Yes, we only have 3 frogmouths, but they're all quite different.
Yeah,
and ours are also the largest frogmouths as well.
Yes.
Papuan is the largest in the world.
It's a big bird.
Yeah. Well, they are quite large, but even then, you still think of them being quite kind of like halfway between the nightjars and the owls, size-wise.
No, I would agree. Yeah.
Cool. All right. And obviously, while you're out there, you're going to be seeing a lot of other stuff that's not birds as well, such as gliders and possums. Obviously, some amazing photos for the Queensland Wildlife Preservation Society's glider programs came from you being out there running around.
That's right. We give them all our photos because good photos are greater, gliders are scarce. So they sit so high up in the eucalypts, and they'll often be well hidden if they're feeding. So it's, we just spend a lot of time working our way across fragmented green spaces in Brizzy to see where they're still persisting.
Yeah, right.
And then we log all our sightings on ALA.
Yep.
And then we'll let the guys at the Glider Network know.
ALA being Atlas of Living Australia.
I shouldn't
for anybody who wants to jump on and have a look. Atlas of Living Australia. Check them out. They're fantastic.
So so they'll often use our data like they did at a site in Upper Caboolture and Sheep Station Creek. They are trialling a nest box program. So they used all of our coordinates to decide where to put these nest boxes. And a couple of them have been occupied, which is really, really fantastic. But the data is so valuable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it can be applied in many different ways. So it's, Whenever you're out and about, no matter what it is, even if you think it's not significant, it is significant because people need to know it's there.
Yeah, and look, you know, especially at night time, it is hard to sometimes see these. A friend of mine best described the first time he saw a glider. He said he thought he saw a doormat fly over.
Yeah, I get that.
It's just a big squarish rectangular shape. A doormat with a tail that just flew overhead.
Yeah, I think I called a sugar glider a hanky with a tail when it was flying over us.
Very nice, very nice. Well, look, it is a whole lot of fun out there. Look, I do, you know, most of my nighttime spotting is obviously for herps and that kind of stuff. But, you know, you do see a lot of little owls and obviously a lot of frogmouths and stuff out there on the sides of the roads. Let's talk a little bit about owling. What's if there's anybody who's keen to get into it, do you have any tips where and how to owl safely?
Go out at night.
The first question we get often asked is, how do you find owls? And our first answer typically is go out at night time.
Because people don't want to go out at night. They want to find them during the day. And
yeah,
sure. I want to be in bed.
Yeah, that's it.
I do as well, but
not going to find owls in bed.
It's funny because people, you know, did you find this at night? Well, yes, we did. I mean, you can find some owls during the day, like your Ninox owls. You can find them roosting during the day. Your powerfuls are quite reliable. And you can come across your boorbooks and your barking as well, because they're often roosting just in foliage, dense vegetation. So, but you're going to have a very slim chance of seeing a sooty owl during the day, an incredibly slim chance, no chance of seeing a grass owl during the day.
And they're not exactly going to be in their best form. They're going to be like
yes,
tucked away.
And tytos, especially, like they fold up their face and they look quite alien-like.
Their facial disc over with their feathers, and they end up just looking like this.
Oh, really? They cover up their own face with their face?
Yes, and they have like this big line where they've folded it, and they just look totally bizarre.
It's like they've gotten like the grandma cheek pinch face mush too hard, and their face has just collapsed in on itself.
Folded it over their face.
Wow. Yeah. Just grabbed their ears by the end and brought them together with their nose. Yeah, fantastic. So I guess going out at night, sometimes a little bit daunting, but like any outdoor activity, just let people know where you're going.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Take some precautions.
Take someone with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You know, have your communication, have your phone. Make sure you have access to, you know, first aid, water safety, and all that. And I guess if you're first going out there doing it, then don't just go romping off in the bush. Stick to tracks.
That's right. Don't bush bash until you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Or don't bush bash in national parks in general.
Yes.
But particularly when you're first going out there, there's no reason to go too hard.
Yeah. No, there isn't. And most stuff you'll find along tracks anyway. You can, or even along roads, especially barn owls.
Right.
They sit on fence posts and take advantage of agricultural land. So that's an easy owl to find in the right area.
Right.
Yeah. Or even if you're wanting to go out at night and just go out during the day to the spot first and familiarise yourself with the area before you go out at the same spot at night, because even we still get lost sometimes at night going to spots we've been to plenty of times during the day, because everything just changes at night. Like what you'd think was a really open eucalypt forest during the day becomes very closed at night. once there's only a head torch or a handheld torch lighting the way. So always go out during the day first. And even we still do that now. We'll go check out a spot during the day that we haven't been, and then we go out again that night. So that's always a good starting point as well.
Yeah, very cool. Spotlighting tips. Obviously, we're trying to we've got our torch or our head torch pointing the same direction as our line of sight, trying to catch the shine coming off the back of the retina of whatever we're looking at.
Yeah.
I guess with owls, we're not looking at the ground the way we are with looking at reptiles.
No, so with spotlighting for owls, before you start doing that, just make sure you've become friends with a really good chiropractor.
That neck's going to get sore.
Your neck will get very sore, trust me.
Oh, God.
Yeah, just like, a head torch is always really good because you pick up the eye shine, and a lot of the owls give a really good eye shine back to you. So that's one of the easiest ways to find owls if they're in line of sight of you, is you get this really good eye shine back. And a white torch is great for that, even a handheld torch. But I generally, if I have a handheld torch, I try and hold it up towards my eyes so I can pick up that eye shine real easy.
Right.
And then once you find the owl, one thing that we've been doing a lot of, how long for now? 18 months, maybe nearly almost 2 years, is the use of red light with owls. More so for being able to continually view the owl, is once we find the owl with the white light, we'll flick over to red light, and then we can view the owl without causing them too much distress.
Right.
The red light just is not as, what's the word that we could say?
Well, the longer
just not
wavelength
as-
scatters,
Yeah.
it
That's right.
scatters much sooner
They're not-
than those shorter UV wavelengths.
They're not
So-
as sensitive to
Yeah,
it.
they're just not as sensitive to the red light as the white. Like typically, especially the hawk owls, your powerfuls, your boo-books, under a white light they'll start squinting, and then if you look at some photos where the eyes are sort of a bit squinty, you know that it's probably been photographed under a white light or even under car headlights.
Right. Okay.
But once we're in a red light, you can dim the red light right down, and the owls are exhibiting a much more natural behaviour under the red.
Right. Well, my understanding is, because red scatters so much quicker, and there's not much light, what red infrared spectrum light is around at night is going to scatter much faster. It's not going to be as good for seeing at night, so their eyes aren't tuned into it, which is the same reason why a lot of deep sea crustaceans are bright red.
Yeah.
It effectively makes them invisible because there's no red light getting down that deep into the ocean to
exactly.
reflect off them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And similar thing, except at night rather than under the ocean, so their eyes aren't adapted to see
Yeah.
them, so you're not going to impact them as much.
Yeah.
That's very cool. I was just going to ask, any other things that you recommend for minimizing your impacts on animals while you're out there? Obviously, don't litter, don't stomp around, and I guess don't make too much noise.
Sometimes noise is fairly good, especially with something like, I'll use powerful owl as an example. If you're going into their habitat during or leading up to a breeding season and you're walking around, even just conversation with the person you're out will draw the attention of a male powerful owl who's like, what's this noise in my hood?
Right.
And he'll come in and investigate you. So sometimes noise is really good, but on the opposite side of things, where you move away from ninox and go to your tidos, you looking for a barn owl, for instance, you probably don't want to be too noisy because they're pretty sketchy in terms of if they see you.
Or maybe not as territorial and not going to come and try to check you out.
It's quite interesting. I mean, there's lots of things you can do to minimize impacts, even just as a viewer, not just a photographer. Photography, I think, minimize flash use. Don't go crazy, because I don't like someone flashing my eyes. And just like I don't like a white torch in my eyes for ages, and I would much prefer someone to make those tiny little changes to make it a bit more comfortable for the animal, because it's the very least we can do, and it's not much we have to do. It doesn't take much at all.
Yeah.
And it's just much more pleasant to observe the natural behaviors.
Yeah, without them unstressed.
We've had sooty owls, powerful owls, boo-books mate in front of us, all three of those species.
Oh, wow.
All under red light.
All under
red
red
light.
light.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you could clearly shine it, and they're still going at it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then obviously all the feeding sequences, all these natural behaviors, not bothered. Whereas if we had a white light on them, I don't think we would get to witness as much of that, because they're always trying to look down or up and away. And,
Right.
yeah.
And obviously for something, with such sensitive eyesight at nighttime,
Yeah.
they probably rely on that a little bit. So even if you do night blind them a little bit, it's probably going to affect them for a little while.
Yeah, well, with the impact argument on, as far as the photography aspect goes, often you'll put up a photo, or Jasmine and I will put up a photo, and then we'll get the person who may not be familiar with nocturnal photography say, did you use flash? And then you say yes, and they say, oh, you're blinding the owls. Well, in my argument for saying, well, that flash is okay, is because we're using that red light and we're viewing them, we're waiting for the moment for the photo. We might be there with the owl for 30 minutes viewing it under red light.
Or waiting in the dark.
Or waiting in the dark. But we will only walk away from an owl session with 2 or 3 photos.
That's right.
Because we're waiting for the right moment to take the photo. And a flash, in my opinion, is very much similar to them being out when there's a storm, when there's lightning. Whereas if you're not using a flash and you're getting a white light, you're trying to hold the white light on them, and you're holding there for 10, 15 minutes, and that's when they're starting to squint.
Right, that constant pressure.
Yeah. Exactly. And then going back to the red light again, from a photo aspect, that red light at night turns your camera into a day shooting camera again, because your flash picks up the red much quicker than this really dimmed out white, which may be tracking backwards and forwards trying to find the focus point. But as soon as you've got a red light on it, it picks up focus straight away, so you can take the photo, look at it, yep, that's in focus, it looks good, and then you're out of there straight away.
Like, yeah.
So the red light just not only helps with them acting normal in terms of their behaviour, but it enables you to not be able to muck around with your camera for so long saying, well, that was out of focus, need to go again.
Yeah, flash it 5 times to get the same photo.
Yeah, so with that red light, it's focusing straight away. If you sort of have half an idea on taking photos, you can take 2 or 3 photos of the owl within a minute or two, and then you can essentially get out of there. So that's why I love red light with owls, or any nocturnal animal for that matter.
Yeah, any nocturnal animal. I think it's the least you can do.
Yeah.
Right. That's obviously something that takes a bit of practice. I would not be capable of that. I work with fast-moving diurnal leopards most of the time. I put my camera on sports mode. I try not to get bitten.
Yeah.
And I take 1,000 photos. I flash. And then I check them out in Lightroom later. So that approach to just diurnally exposed animals and taking 1 million shots.
Yeah.
You have to be a bit more surgical, I guess, if you want to minimize those impacts, and that's very interesting. How about noise? Do you triangulate from calls a lot while you're out there? Or?
Yeah,
we did that last night. We triangulated from noise. Yeah, we travelled a fair distance to an area where we were looking for some powerful owls. We've been trying to find the hollow at this spot for a while now, and we have been struggling for the last couple of months, and we decided to get there a bit early during the day to sort of get our bearings a little bit better. And then on dusk we heard the male owl call, and then he typically only calls a couple of times just on dusk. So we sort of heard him and started making a beeline to him, and then Jasmine saw him, and he had a ringtail possum in his talons from the previous night, with its head chopped off. And then he made a couple of other calls, and I could just barely hear the female calling not too far away, and we thought, well, it's the right time of year that the female's probably in a hollow. The male has a ringtail, and he hasn't eaten himself, so obviously he's going to be delivering this to the female. And then we found him, and then he flew, and then we just watched where he flew and just followed him. And as we were following him, as he was flying towards wherever he was going, the female call was getting louder, and then he landed in this tree, and then the female calls was in the next tree, and that's where the hollow was. So listening is a big part, not just with powerful owls, any owl.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you can hear
and with a lot of other fauna as well.
Yeah, if you can hear the animal and you can safely make your way towards it, that's the best way of finding something that you can't see visually. And
that must just be a great experience and a very cool observation to watch this male powerful owl, bringing home the bacon.
Yeah,
that's so to speak. Bringing home the possum.
Watching powerful owls feed is just the most awesome thing in the world, and we're a bit, we're very desensitized to the gore of it.
Yeah,
because we see it a lot.
Pretty powerful.
And you can hear them rip the skin and the hair off the possums, and it's just incredible. You can hear it tearing, and it's just so cool. You just got to admire it.
That's awesome. So you guys were out, that was last night. Did you guys get any sleep?
No,
a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Not enough sleep. But you sleep when you're dead, so that's fine.
A few more cocktails, man. You'll be fine. So look, obviously while people are out there, if you are out there owling or birding, we also do recommend jumping on the BirdLife Southern Queensland Citizen Science Project. And the BirdLife Atlas project, now available via Bird Data. Have you guys played around with this one much?
Well, we were actually... Oh, Bird Data or the project?
Let's go Bird Data.
Okay. So previous to the project, we hadn't used Bird Data. We had used eBird, and they are linked into a point, but not enough, and it's a lot of work to carry the data over because I believe it has to be done manually every now and then.
Right, okay.
They're not fully linked up. But yeah, all of our sightings had either been on Atlas of Living Australia or eBird, and not until we started doing work with the Powerful Owl Project did we really start using Bird Data. But I would encourage people to use both if they currently use eBird and can use Bird Data as well, because obviously eBird and BirdLife are their own organisations, and they need their own databases. And if that information is available to them,
both and
it's more
separately.
accessible, it's useful, and it doesn't take much for us to just pop it in both of them. I would urge people to do that. And they both have their strengths. And bird data is really good at handling sensitive information.
Right. Can you tell us a bit about the Powerful Owl Project?
Yes, so it's been running in Sydney for quite some time, a decade or so, and in Melbourne for a few years now, and it's only started in Brisbane now through BirdLife Southern Queensland. So it's a huge citizen science project. Powerful owls are a tricky bird, like any nocturnal bird, to follow, and we don't know much about powerful owls in southeast Queensland at all.
Right.
In Sydney they have over 100 pairs. We don't even know 20 pairs here. We don't.
Yeah, wow.
They're around, I'm sure.
They just haven't been found and tracked and logged. Yeah.
That's right. And we want to know how many we have here and how many are persisting and how many are breeding, because
they're vulnerable here in southeast Queensland, aren't they?
They are.
Yep.
Yes, they are. I mean, powerful owls do well in an urban environment because we attract their main prey items, which are ringtail possums, flying foxes, brush-tail possums. Ringies are their favourite though, a little bit easier to take, quite timid. Brushies are like a cat.
Yeah, they got a bit of fight in them.
That's right, so I would take a ringy too.
Yeah.
So we often see them with ringies. And while their prey is abundant, that doesn't mean hollows are abundant for them to breed.
Right.
And that's the problem.
Habitat is always an issue.
Habitat, yeah. And there are a number of threats for powerful owls, but they're the same for most wildlife. So what we're trying to do is, we have had a species distribution model made, like what was done in Melbourne, for Brisbane, and it just suggests suitable habitat and where we should expect to find them. But what we're trying to do is fine-tune it to where they really are, and which places we can say that's not suitable anymore, that's all gone, and kind of have something that's a little bit more fine-scaled. So.
Right, so you're actually looking at habitat that has been modelled as potentially suitable.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So that has all been mapped out for Brisbane, for the greater Brisbane area.
That's very cool.
And we can look at it now and go, oh, we know there are powerful there, but this place is shaded, but we know there aren't powerfuls there. Okay. And that's what we're trying to do for all of that area.
Right, that's
is
fantastic.
To narrow it down. And it's going to take time because this is brand new.
Oh, I can imagine. We're going to be talking about the Melbourne project on that with the citizen science as well. So that's...
And it's the same thing.
Yeah.
They're just at a more advanced stage, but it's great that we have that to model off.
Yeah, absolutely.
For this. It's already been done, so we know what to do.
That's very cool.
So we've pretty much, over April and May, we assisted Rob, the project manager, Rob Clemens from BirdLife, with running Powerful Owl workshops. So we spent the first hour just teaching people about our owls of southeast Queensland, their ecology, how to identify them, and then a short intro to the project, and then people could stay if they wanted to sign on and learn more about it.
Right.
So we have, how many people? I think we had over 200 people turn up to the workshops,
200,
and at least 150 commit to the project. And you don't have to commit full on, just a bare minimum, or even if you don't have the time, turning up to the workshops, you know what to listen out for, and you can record it on bird data if you hear something. And that makes a difference, just knowing what to listen out for. Even if you can't actively be out there in the surveys, that helps. So it's a great project. For such an elusive species, you really need those numbers. You need the manpower. So to cover not only historical sites, but finding new sites in this area, we think is suitable. So it's a massive job. And finding hollows is a whole other thing, and we need to do that to know which pairs are able to successfully breed and which ones are struggling. So
not just finding the hollow, but then you got to monitor the
That's
fledgling.
Right. That's right. So breeding success is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
And they've monitored that in Sydney. They know their fledge rate's 1.2 something chicks.
Yeah.
So it's good.
1.2.
Something like that. Yeah. So it's very good. And here we need to have the same findings by the end of it, hopefully. So it's in its baby stages, but it'll be just as successful as the Sydney project and the Melbourne project. We just need as many people that can jump on board.
And got to get that data.
Yeah, got to get the data. So that's it.
When did you guys jump on board with this one as well?
Well, I got into contact with Rob last year, but it's taken a long time to set this up for
Yeah.
Rob to get all the permits for us to operate in Brisbane City Council land, Logan, and only recently have we gotten parks permits. It's just a long process. They want to know exactly what we're doing. But yeah, we actually started it probably around April this year. It became, it was put out there.
That's very cool.
Yeah,
That's
so
very
it's
cool.
very new.
And I guess both of you, have your own expertise to bring to this project as well.
Yeah,
which
that's
is kind of cool. You obviously know a lot about the naturalist aspect of where these owls are going to be.
Yeah.
From having explored it
Well,
yourself.
that was how we originally got involved. Was Rob Clemens was in contact with Jasmine, and he is an American fella, so he has a lot of expertise with birds of prey from the United States, but he actually hadn't really seen many Australian owls, so we actually took him out to a couple of spots.
That's super cool.
Yeah, and then from there, he asked us if we wanted to get involved, and we said yeah, and then we ended up getting really heavily involved.
But it's been
Yeah,
great.
right.
Just doing these workshops has been so much fun and educating people, and we've had, such a range of people turn up from, older folk that have all the time in the world to commit to this project, to kids.
Which is so cool about the
It's
citizen
awesome.
science thing. There's the
for
people
everyone.
who do have
Yeah.
time out there but don't have anything necessarily planned, but feel like they want to contribute to conservation or wildlife science or whatever. These new citizen science projects, eBird was it?
Yeah, eBird.
eBird, BirdLife, and Bird Data, ALA, Frog ID.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Frog
Frog
ID,
ID,
which has been out, and is all of these amazing citizen science projects are just letting I guess people who want to find a way to help, lets them do it on their own time, which is kind of super cool.
That's fantastic, and like I was saying before, the data can be applied in so many ways, and it's valuable to everyone, whether it be these conservation groups or developers council. It's incredibly important. People need to know what's there.
Yeah,
I
that's right.
mean, we've gone to places in the Gold Coast where koalas and greater gliders have not been logged,
Yeah, right, and you're
And we've
finding
gone
there
through-
on your searches?
and it's
or-
really important.
Yeah.
We've been finding quite a few. That's what really pushed us to go, okay, we're going to check every little green space now.
Yeah, right.
We want to know where they are and how viable the populations are and where good populations are. So
Yeah,
it's really interesting.
fascinating. It must be a lot of effort.
Yes, it is.
How often are you guys out there, validating sites?
I probably tell people that I reckon 20 hours a week.
At least. Yeah.
And when you sort of average that out, it's at least 4 nights a week I'm out at least.
Yeah, easy.
I don't think Jasmine might not get out as much. She comes out on weekends, but I'm out at least 2 or 3 times during the week as well. So yeah, I reckon close on average 20 hours a week. So it's a little bit lonely sometimes.
Well, people wonder how we find this stuff, and it's really just because
Time.
we're out
It
there
does.
all the time. It's the time and the effort. And there's times when we can go out and we don't see anything. We don't even see a cane toad.
It does
it's
happen.
depressing.
The fun part is you end up having these unicorn animals that just never show up for so
Yeah,
long.
yeah.
I've spent a lot of time. I've said it before. I still never found a black-headed python in the wild. Pretty much every herper
Yeah.
that I know
Yeah.
has.
Yeah.
A friend of mine. So there was a work site that we on the day that I left to fly back into the
Yeah.
big city. They're like, haha, we found one on the drive in to the work site, not even on the site. And it was just, same thing happens. I think it was even the same lady, Lisa Owen, who you've seen on the show
Oh,
before. And she's on another site up north just bragging, oh yeah, we're finding black-headed pythons. Asshole.
Yeah, everyone's got that one thing.
Yeah.
Everyone does.
Yeah.
Even owls are like that were for me. When I first started looking for them, I couldn't even find a powerful owl in southeast Queensland. I had to fly down to Sydney to look at one.
And then I found them while you were
Yeah,
away.
and now like 3-4 years later, we know like 20 spots for them.
Right.
I remember calling sooty owl my nemesis bird. Now we've got 5 hollow
Yeah.
sites.
It's just time.
Yeah,
It's
and
just time
putting
effort.
in those hours and getting to know the animal.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Yeah.
And just learning the behaviours, learning when they're going to be most active, because owls are very seasonal as well.
Yeah.
Like any animal, they're going to be active different times of year. So learning about that, learning about their prey items. So if you go into a spot where there's a lot of ringtail possums, you're probably going to think, well, there might be a good spot for a powerful owl. There's a lot of sugar gliders in the rainforest somewhere. You're probably going to think, well, then it's going to be good for a sooty owl.
Right.
Just time. That's all it is, really.
Yeah. Well, look, at least you guys are enjoying what you're doing, and the talks, the presentations. Is there any more of them coming up for people who want to get involved in the Powerful Owl Project? Or?
Not this year, but I'm sure we'll be doing a bunch next year again.
Yep.
Just because we're already well into breeding season.
So it's time to start looking.
We missed the
sites,
boat on the best time for surveys, because leading up to when they're pairing up and leading up to the breeding season is when they're very vocal, and beyond that, Powerfuls aren't that vocal.
Right.
They call a little bit on dusk and not a whole lot, and they're pretty tricky to track down. Those first couple of months of the year are your good time.
Right.
But we still needed people to find chicks and everything, and still survey sites, because you can pick up new birds. But next year will be a really good time to jump on earlier in the year, and we will probably be doing a few Brisbane and Logan workshops again.
Yeah,
maybe some
cool.
others.
Very cool. And I guess aside from coming to those talks in the future, how can people get involved in the Brisbane Powerful Owl Project? I guess jumping onto bird data at birdlife.org.au, or going to birdlife.org.au in general?
Yeah, if you go to BirdLife, there'll be a whole section for the Powerful Owl Project. There's also, you would find it just on any of the Facebook pages too, and there's also a Facebook page for the Powerful Owl Project.
Right.
It's more Sydney focused, but they will give updates on other areas. But because the Sydney one's been running for so long, and I'm pretty sure the page is operated by Sydney-based people, it's very focused on that.
Right, and the Brisbane project is a little bit newer. So.
It's very
Yeah,
new.
this year only.
Yeah,
okay.
but just if you go to BirdLife, all the information will be there.
Yeah, I think they did a lot of the RSVPs through Eventbrite, and they had Facebook posts with, you can RSVP here and stuff. So as word of mouth gets out, I think it will probably be even busier next year.
Yeah.
Plus, we'll be able to start a bit earlier. So as
Yeah.
Jasmine spoke about, getting in earlier rather than, we're getting people out this year when they'd already mated and stuff, so the vocalization sort of dropped significantly. But
Right.
People can be discouraged, you know, if you're not getting that response, and we're like, you need to hold on, because you know what, in a couple of months we're going to have the sweet trills of babies filling the air, and you're just going to die, because they're the cutest little cotton balls you have ever seen, and it's all worth it.
Owl chicks are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Little fluffy
Powerful
white
owls
fuzzballs.
especially, they're not, you know, they're so cute. They look so unimpressed with the world, but they're cute.
Yeah. Well, look, so if people do want to get involved, I guess birdlife.org.au, and keep an eye out for updates on the Brisbane Powerful Owl Project as it happens. So I guess we should just have a quick chat about your Birds of the Night video from Faunagraphic.
Yes.
That was, first of all, that was super awesome. If anybody hasn't seen it, faunographic.com.au/video. There's a couple of other ones there as well, with some coastal bird life there as well, wasn't there?
yeah, so my Birds of the Night was my second film that I put out with the help of Caleb McIlray Media, who did a lot of the editing for me.
And the voiceover.
And the voiceover. The first video we put out was a Southeast Queensland specific wildlife film, just sort of promoting that I run tours and stuff, and just giving a bit of a showcase of Southeast Queensland wildlife. So it had, macropods, it had birds, it had owls, obviously, it had nocturnal mammals,
Leaf-tailed geckos, few
yeah,
herps,
reptiles, lizards, geckos, just a bit of everything, just to showcase, hey, Southeast Queensland's pretty cool to come to for wildlife. Don't just go up to North Queensland when you come to Queensland, because we've got some pretty specialist birds here, and mammals and frogs and reptiles. So
it is kind of at that biogeographic confluence of the northern rivers-y kind of temperate rainforest, and the more truer rainforest up north, and then the coast, and then it's really not that far to the arid zone and the Dandenong Ranges.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, there's a really nice
we saw budgies
confluence
this morning.
Yeah,
So
we saw.
like if we can see budgies 2 hours out of Brizzy sometimes,
2 hours out of Brizzy.
Yeah.
that's pretty special.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible.
We've got a bit of everything here in terms of habitat, so...
We're not going to let you guys know exactly where that was. You do have to go and find your own budgies. But pretty cool. Like, so what, a couple of hours west from here?
Yep.
Yeah.
2 hours, that's it.
They're just on the other side of the
range.
range.
Yeah, wow.
We had a couple of budgies, which was cool. So, Yeah, I think Southeast Queensland's a pretty cool place to visit. So that's why I thought we'd just put out a bit of a generalist video to start with, which got a pretty good reception, my first video. And then from there, I wanted to work on a nocturnal bird video because I don't think I'd seen any video done properly on any Australian nocturnal birds. So I spent probably 12 months, probably if not more, just trying to get video of all the nocturnal birds,
wow.
which didn't come to fruition, but I pretty much got most. So
wow.
I got all of the 11 owl species bar
Grass owl.
Bar 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we didn't get grass owl and we didn't get Tasmanian boobook.
Yeah. We've seen them, but we
we've seen
just
them,
couldn't
yeah.
film.
Couldn't get footage.
Yeah, and grass owl, I don't even know how we're
I don't know
going to
how
do
I
it.
would film a grass owl because you only
They're
see
in that
them when
long.
they're flying around. So I don't know how you do filming a night bird flying around. But
We'll try.
I'm working out logistics on that at the moment. So
Camera drone.
yeah, I need to do something, but I'll eventually get one. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
And then I got all the 3 frogmouths, and then I got the Australian owlet nightjar, which is his own little bird, and then didn't film any of our nightjars. So that's something I need to work on. But when I put that out, that got a massive reception. I think I posted it only on my Facebook page, which only has 3,000 or 4,000 people that like the page. And I put it out, and I think it's had close to 40,000 views online.
That's not surprising at all. It's a really phenomenal video. I was gonna ask how long did it take you to put together to capture that footage first of all, but obviously over a year.
Yeah, over a year.
Yeah, wow.
Obviously, that's all off my own back. No one paid me to go out and try and video out. So it's just when I had spare money to be able to go somewhere where a specific owl was.
Basically doing it opportunistically whenever you're given the
yeah,
chance.
essentially. Like most of the owls here in my home range. So that's not too hard in terms of, hey, I want to spend a bit of time looking for a sooty owl. But things like a rufous owl where I had to fly up to North Queensland to see and film them, or go down into Tasmania just to see a Tasmanian boobook, whatever it may be. I obviously had to work within my own time constraints and financial constraints just to do that. So, roughly around 12 months. And even from some of the video I took initially to the video I took at the end before it all came together, even some of the quality had changed, and even the styles and techniques I used to film it had changed. So
compare this episode to our first episode ever with Yasmin. Techniques and technologies improve over time, and it is hard to keep that quality consistent when you're also trying to up your game at the same time.
Yeah, and especially when it's taking so long to do as well. Like if I did it all within a couple of weeks, it'd be all similar. So I'm starting filming stuff now for Birds of the Night 2, which we're doing.
Ooh,
and yeah, so I've got couple of species knocked on the head now, which is good.
You don't want to say that.
Yeah.
Ticked off. Couple of species ticked off.
Yeah, a couple of species ticked off. And then obviously going to redo all the species again, because I'm going to have all the nocturnal birds in there again, but it's going to be a bit more in depth about each species. We're going to have a lot more information on the conservation aspect of them as well.
Very cool.
And unlike my first video, which I didn't have any external audio happening with that one, it was all just recorded off the camera.
Right.
This time I'm doing a lot more external audio recording. So
trying to capture some calls and some
So some nights I
sounds.
don't even go out with my camera. I just go out there with my audio equipment and record. And I've got like cool calls of barking out, like 5 barking owls talking to each other and all that sort of stuff that I can get put into the video for the next one. So it's might take another 12 months, but we'll get there.
Well, it's all worthwhile, especially when you see the footage at the end. I mean, the footage of them nesting, feeding, like you said, the chicks being the cutest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And you actually have footage of them being fed by their parents and bringing them back, like quite large possums that have been, you know, completely smashed, and then the parents just shred them to pieces and get into their. It is like, it's gruesome and it's wild and it's very beautiful and you know, kind of sweet at the same time when you got the little chicks there and everything. It's dude, it was a really amazing piece of you know, wildlife video. I'm really looking forward to the second one.
Fingers crossed. I reckon hopefully by early next year, I reckon we'll probably have it finished.
Yeah, wow.
But yeah, that's the same video that we used at the Powerful Owl Project to introduce all the different owl species. And then we were lucky enough to screen it at the recent Queensland Ornithological Conference. Which got a standing ovation, essentially.
Yeah, they wanted to watch it again.
They wanted to watch it again. They kept getting requests. Every time there was a break, the MC said,
"They put on the bird video."
Yeah, the MC was saying, "Oh, everyone wants to watch the owl video again, so we have to put it on again." So, that was pretty cool. So.
Oh man, that's fantastic. Well, look, again, like I said, not surprised. And if anybody does want to go check it out, it's on at faunagraphic.com.au/video. I'm sure people can find it on YouTube and stuff as well.
Yeah, you can. If you search Birds of the Night on YouTube, it should pop up there.
Yeah.
And Birds of the Night 2 now in production.
Yes.
Woo!
Yeah.
And is you know, so are you trying to hit some of those smaller capulomygophore night owls? Night jars.
So the owls are the easy part. Frogmouths are also will be easy. So this time we're going to try and find some of the night jars and do a bit of filming on them. Unfortunately, they're a little bit harder, but you know, fingers crossed we come across some sites where we can have a bird that's fairly comfortable and get, you know, a minute worth of footage, because that's what you really need. So fingers crossed.
Well, look, aside from the video, any tours coming up that you guys are, I guess, plugging? Anything up in the works at the moment for any of our listeners who are keen to jump on?
So because owls are our obsession, we've started doing owl-specific tours.
Ooh.
We're putting out our first one's out.
I'm starting to sound
month.
more and more like an owl.
Yeah. Our first one is on the 28th of this
Saturday
month.
the 28th, and we have one place left.
Yeah, we've got one place left for that.
I think that's going to be sold out.
So with that tour, it's essentially a tour where we go out looking for owls. We discuss their biology and ecology. We talk about how to find them.
So it's quite educational. It's not just straight up photography.
Yeah, it's not just straight photography. So so far the people have booked two of them aren't even photographers. One is. So because it's been well received, we'll probably do that every couple of months or something. We'll just do an owl sort of tour.
And it's cool that you're keeping it small as well, not just to minimise your impact, but so people actually get to spend time with you guys and actually
exactly.
learn.
I don't just book a big minibus and we run out into the bush with 30 people, just torches everywhere. I try and keep it no more than 4 people. That way, noise is quiet, not a lot of torches running around, and we can spend time with the people and time at sites without having to rush around. So
and everybody gets to look at your handsome face. And
yes, exactly.
There we go. Good stuff.
So we do that. That's in terms of our smaller tours, and then as I alluded to at the beginning, we've got a couple of spots left for our Tasmania tour in November. That's about 80% full at the moment. North Queensland is about half full. Still got a couple of spots left for that. And my Cape York one, which I just put out yesterday for 4 people, there's already one booking, so there's 3 spots left for that. And then apart from those tours, we do day and nocturnal tours whenever you want to book. So there's no specific days or times that you need to jump on a nocturnal tour. They're all, hey, Faunagraphic, I would like to do a nocturnal tour on this date. If we're available to do it, we'll do it. So there's no specific dates for the general sort of day and night tours.
So come as you will. Get in contact.
We just work it out.
And people can get in contact with you at faunagraphic.com.au. Obviously, they can find their details there. Again, Faunagraphic on Facebook. @ _Faunagraphic on Instagram. Where else can people get a hold of you? Is that about it?
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, website. That has all my contact details in terms of mobile and email as well. So cool. Email is also matt@faunagraphic.com.au. So any way, I generally would get back to you within 12 hours.
Yeah, cool.
I'm always, I don't get back to you at night because I'm usually out looking for birds.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, look, and yeah, definitely jump off faunagraphic.com.au and check out the Birds of the Night video. Highly recommended. Guys, let's jump into some new research. What do you think? Let's talk owl science.
Yep.
Woohoo!
Let's do it.
All right.
What are we starting with?
Let's go the older one first. We'll start with Bradsworth.
Yep.
So 2017, Bradsworth et al. Species distribution models derived from citizen science data predict the fine-scale movements of owls in an urbanizing landscape. This is Biological Conservation 213. So we were pretty much talking about this.
Yes, that's right.
But this will be from down in Melbourne. So a bit of background. The global loss of apex predators is largely due to human causes, unfortunately. Now, apex predators, being up the top, are very important for ecosystem function, providing that top-down pressure, not just on prey, but on all the other mesopredators. So those are the mid-level predators out there. So, yeah, top-level predators don't just eat, small mice and rats. They're also eating snakes. They're also eating, anything else that might hunt those smaller things. So it actually takes a bit of the pressure off the base level producers and has a bit of an increase in biodiversity. So that's just one aspect of why keystone predators are so important. Now, some predators are pretty successful in urban environments and thus pretty important for urban ecology. One of these being Ninox strenua. Ninox? I got it right, finally. Ninox strenua, the powerful owl. So in this paper, the aim is to investigate the ability of species distribution models derived from citizen science data to predict the fine-scale spatial ecology of an urban predator, and then using GPS to validate the species distribution models and the adequacy of reserves. So pretty much what you guys are doing right now is that last bit,
right.
going out and validating those GPS points, or I guess the species distribution
the model
models.
that's been predicted. Right. Yeah.
So I guess these guys did it a bit of a different validation method. We'll get into that anyway. So in Melbourne, they had a study area of 372,000 hectares approximately, including urban core, fringe, and forest. They used data from BirdLife International, Department of Environment, Land and Water Protection's Biodiversity Atlas, Atlas of Living Australia, BirdLife Australia's Melbourne Powerful Owl Project, and from ISAC 2013, all into the ArcGIS software, geographical information software for analysis, in their species distribution model layer, using data after 1997, without duplicate recordings, of course, in 20-meter cells. They also made some environmental layers from the data in ISAC 2013, based on the ecology of powerful owls. So things like rivers, slopes, tree cover, land cover.
Yep.
These were modeled in the entropy modeling software MaxEnt to predict habitat suitability from the data against the environment. So once they had that species distribution model, they kind of went out to validate them by basically going out and doing playback surveys to get some calls and play the call, get a call back. And then they caught them in nets and attached a 35-gram GPS / radio frequency transponder. They used these to produce maximum convex polygons and kernel density estimators, which are basically different ways to map home range. Kernel density estimators are kind of a grid-based. MCPs are, you're trying to draw a polygon, a certain shape. And they use that to predict movement. And then they, to look at the accuracy of how well they predicted movement, they use the GPS signals from the birds in predicted and see how much of that is in predicted habitat. So I guess that's kind of what you guys are doing.
Yeah, that's right.
Instead of putting a bunch of GPSs on them.
Yes, we're not at that stage.
Send out some nodes to go and validate it.
Yeah, that's right.
Fantastic.
I mean, the GPS, it tells us a bit more because we're not going to know exactly. From our data, we're not going to know the bird's home range because we're not tracking them.
And you're not going to know specific times when different movement
that's
patterns
right.
are occurring.
And which birds are occupying a smaller space. We can to a degree, but we can know birds which are close to each other at their roost sites, but which ones are occupying the same larger territory and crossing over and things like that.
Yeah. Interesting. So to look at the adequacy of reserve cover, they compared that spatial ecology to a national park layer that they made there as well. Interesting stuff. They had about 851 location data, presence data for Ninox strenua from those species distribution models. The main prey, obviously, ringtail and brushtail, are very common in urban environment. However, you do find Ninox strenulant hotspots.
Yes.
So obviously there's more than just the density of those animals. I mean,
Yes.
that's one thing that will help.
It's their habitat requirements. You wouldn't think they're that specific, but they love creek lines and gullies.
Right.
And while they occupy quite open forest at times, they need to roost in dense vegetation. So where those creek lines run, you will find them in those cooler areas with more cover. And that's really important, which is where those hotspots come in, is because of their specific habitat requirements for these roost and nest sites.
Well, that seems to be kind of what they found in this study, right? I mean, the most important variable was land cover.
Yep.
But then lineal density of ephemeral rivers.
Yep.
Coming in second at 22.8% of the model being described by the lineal density to ephemeral rivers. And vegetation also important by the land cover, the normalized difference vegetation index, tree density, distance to riparian vegetation. Riparian again. So
Yes.
I guess not big rivers, but ephemeral streams.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, creek lines.
Yeah,
Creek lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. So then they went and caught their 5 owls, and from which they got 5,149 GPS recordings over 141 nights.
Imagine working through that.
Yeah, that's good times. Home range sizes were quite variable amongst individuals, but the models performed well. At about 95.9% accuracy for the total, 99.3% accuracy for predicting where they were going to roost,
Yep.
95.8% for their foraging via what GPS points were predicted to be found in that habitat. Also, about 91.4% of core home range areas were predicted by the species distribution model, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's
Right.
great that it's so accurate.
Yeah. Now you guys have mentioned that already up here. There's some areas that the model has.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
you guys you predict that they're going to be there, but you're not finding them. So.
Well, we just know already before we started the project that personally we've checked. We know in these tiny little spots that we can see highlighted,
That
we
there's
know they're
none
not
there.
there, and this
Okay.
is why we know we need to scale back the model a bit just
Yeah.
by collecting this data. But overall, it will be quite
Well, there've
accurate,
even
I
been-
believe.
There's even been some sites that you go off the historical data of where there was a powerful owl seen there, and then now we go there, and because southeast Queensland is such
Highly developed.
highly developed
And
it's
rapidly developing.
Yes.
rapidly developing. People are going there, and there's now just a housing estate. There's not going to be a powerful owl in someone's chimney or something.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. So there's definitely that temporal difference, but again, it's 91.4% accurate. There's
Yes.
going to be some
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
I think
okay.
it will be highly accurate.
Yeah.
It's just going to be those little changes where we know for sure they're not going to be.
Very cool.
But yeah, it's really interesting. We know their requirements, and I think in this paper, which is a main point we always bring up, is yes, in an urban environment they can have a smaller home range because they're prey as well in an urban environment.
Right.
They're possums, but it's a matter of hollow availability where they can breed.
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
so that they might be able to
Persistence does not equal
survive.
breeding.
They might be able to survive but not thrive.
Yeah.
Yeah, they fall into what is known as an environmental trap. So they're coming into this area where there's lots of food, but because there's lots of food there doesn't mean that there's hollow availability. So they're staying there because there's lots of food, but they're not going elsewhere to look for hollows, so they may not be breeding.
Do those areas end up being like population sinks in the end, like providing less to the population? I guess it would depend on
It would depend because
on a bunch of factors.
Well, the
Yeah.
thing we say, and
That's a silly
what Rob's
question.
been saying for the project, the biggest detriment to powerful owls is loss of an adult, not losing chicks or not breeding successfully.
right.
If you're losing an adult, that's a far bigger loss. And it's really sad, but people don't realise, yes, loss of habitat and loss of hollows is a big thing, but it's all tied in because we're fragmenting their habitat, and these larger owls that need to have a larger home range and cross over these patches to find food, they're crossing roads.
Yeah, right.
And we've had 3 powerful owls in the last 2 months. One in Queensland, one in New South Wales, one in Victoria, dead
By vehicle strike.
by vehicle strike, and others that are in rehab. Two come through Australia Zoo in Currumbin in the last couple of months that were hit by cars but didn't die, but
That's
a
rough.
lot of them do. And people don't realise it's that common, and
Yeah.
it is, and it's
Well,
really sad.
Even personally, I've had I've hit a barn owl on the road. It flew straight into the side of
Yeah.
our window, and had to euthanize on the spot. It's rough.
Yeah, it is.
Ah, man, that sucks.
But to lose 3 adults like that is just crazy in that time frame. And we had just seen this pair on the Sunshine Coast. They had just paired up.
Yeah.
And then the male was found dead.
That's rough.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully the female found another boy.
I hope so.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
So I guess some of the main points here as well from the paper, as you mentioned, occurrence driven by dense vegetation and rivers, ephemeral rivers, creeks. On top of that, when they look at the reserves, not all reserves contain enough habitat to support a powerful owl. Quoting directly, owls are required to travel outside of reserves and spend a large amount of time on private land to forage.
And that's the case here. A lot of our owls aren't actually in protected areas.
Yeah, right.
So
It might just be a hollow in the park.
yeah.
Yeah, wow.
And then with the way things are going, there won't be a hollow there next year or the year after.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So it's, I guess, critical to maintain those fragments that are left.
Yeah, well,
Obviously, the
that's
more they can
why-
be interconnected,
Yeah,
the
that's
better
why
it
the
is.
project comes in, because we can say to the councils, hey, there's a powerful owl hollow here. You should not be able to develop this. So,
Yeah, or if you do, you have to at least have some consideration and leave a corridor for its movement and enough breeding habitat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
Some kind of arrangement that works
Allows
for
them
the
to
owl.
persist,
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, look. Let's move on. Our second paper, and now we get heavy. Uva et al. 2018. Comprehensive molecular phylogeny of barn owls and relatives, family Titonidae, and their 6 major Pleistocene radiations. This is from Molecular Phylogeny and Evolution 125. So, nice heavy paper here. Titonidae family. 2 genera, as we know, the Phodilus from forests of Central Africa and Southeast Asia, and Tyto, the common barn owl group that we've been speaking more about here, that we have here in Australia as well. 30 plus global subspecies, species and subspecies. Most widely distributed species of owls, one of the most widely distributed. Are they the most widely? One of the most, at
The
least.
barn owl is?
Yeah.
No, it is. It's
It
found
is,
on
yeah.
every continent bar Antarctica. So they're the most widely distributed owl.
There you go. Varying size and plumage color. Many species and subspecies, but the relationships are unclear and controversial.
Yep.
So there's a lot of bird nerd fighting over that.
Oh, yes.
Previous attempts to resolve the taxa have been a little bit inconsistent. So the aim here is to provide a comprehensive molecular phylogeny, answering a couple of questions. One, the phylogenetic relationships and classification of the Tyto family itself. And 2, when and where did the most important speciation events occur? Now, they had a pretty comprehensive sampling here. 16 out of 17 Tyto species and 1 out of 13 Phodilus species. So that's the most comprehensive sampling done for this
Ever.
genus so far.
Yeah.
305 samples from global natural history museums and from the field. And 179 sequences ended up in their multi-locus alignment approach with 7 mitochondrial genes and 2 nuclear genes, including 29 sequences from GenBank. So that is a whole lot of sequence data, mitochondrial and nuclear as well. So hopefully you won't have too much bias, or if there is, you should be able to at least see it in the difference between nuclear and mitochondrial genes. They use maximum likelihood and Bayesian computational methods to build phylogenies in programs RA-MXL and BEAST for the Bayesian package. Ancestral range distributions were also reconstructed in Lagrange. We're not going to go too much further into the details of that because we'd be stuck here all day talking genetics. But look, it's a really cool paper. They did some fantastic concatenation and really amazing phylogenetic approaches here. So definitely check it out if you are into the DNA stuff. On to results and discussion. Let's get into it. 2 major groups, the Tyto and within the Tyto. And they split around 12 million years ago. This is they're separating these into the core Tyto group, which includes the masked grassed and sooties, and the common barn owl group, typified by Tyto alba, divided into 3 main evolutionary units: the American barn owl, Tyto furcata, the Western barn owl, Tyto alba, and the Eastern barn owl, Tyto javanica. Which is the one we have here,
Yes.
Tyto javanica, the Eastern barn owl. The data here from their multi-gene, multi-locus approach suggests a late Miocene, around 6 million years ago, origin in Australasian or Africa. So it's a little bit fuzzy still about their exact geographic. It's like, 6 million years ago, Australasia or Africa. Tighter results were supported by the fossil record, given that the most recent common ancestor between Phyllodes and Tighter probably came from the Oligocene Australasia around 28 million years ago. So I think they're leaning towards Australasia.
Yeah.
Now, the owl we have here, Tyto javanica, with subspecies Delicatula and Rosenbergi being, I guess at one point it was Tyto delicatula.
It
What we
was.
thought.
It was for a time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But within that, you have, I guess, was it Rosenbergii and another one that were... So basically, that one species was paraphyletic.
Yeah.
Right? So that had to be split. And I think the result that they came down with here in this paper is Tyto javanica delicatula.
Yes, that's right.
As the subspecies that we
Yes.
have here. And that's supported by the phylogeny here, and Tyto delicatula as a full species is not. So the 6 major Pleistocene radiations for Tyto happened not in the Pleistocene, of course, and with pretty wide range distributions. The interesting thing here, I guess, is there's a huge amount of color polymorphism in the species, a huge amount of variation, and it seems to correlate a lot with, I guess, foraging behavior,
Yeah.
which makes sense. If hunting behavior and coloration seem to be, I guess, pretty important, but doesn't necessarily match so much with the phylogenetics. For example, they correlate more with other life history traits. For example, the Australian masked owls, Tyto nova hollandae, are paler and smaller island populations in Burra and Tamabar. Some, which they actually say is a different species. Tyto.
And they say the same for Tassie masked owl. Some people would love to claim that to be a different species because it's so much larger,
Yeah.
it's so much darker, but that doesn't really mean that it's that
That it is a different
they're that
species.
different. And
Yeah.
this paper also suggests it with the sooty owls.
Yeah, they had
because they sound different, and one's darker and bigger, and one's smaller and more spotty and light.
Yeah.
People would love to have that split as it is currently, and think that that's enough.
Yeah.
But it isn't always, especially when it's so interesting. You have that leapfrog in the distribution. It would make you also think that it could multipunctata, the lesser sooty owl, is just a subspecies of Tenebracosa.
Yeah, right. So with the coloration differences, they look so significant, and even size differences.
Yes.
Really, I mean, I haven't seen them in the wild, but I guess you could see how people would want to make that assumption, and everybody
would
wants
want to. We would want to.
Yeah.
But you kind of also got to be realistic and
I
be a
think-
scientist.
Yeah, I think I'm finding the bit here that pairwise genetic distances were as low as around
Yes.
0.5%.
So
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
For look, it doesn't. It does matter what markers you're looking at, but if you're looking at sequence data, mitochondrial genes and stuff, and you're not finding like at least like a 4 or 5% difference, like 5% difference, that's probably still the same species.
Yeah.
There's a huge amount of variation, particularly in the mitochondrial sequences. So you got to have more than 0.05% pairwise difference between, especially if you have that much sequence. You would. That can't be different species. It's too close. So they all get lumped together, even despite the fact that they are different sizes, different colors. It's just their localized, I guess, hunting adaptations.
that's right, and their vocalizations are slightly different. We can tell the difference, but yeah, it's not enough. And they had the same thing with the red boobook up in the tablelands, which is the subspecies Ninox boobook lorida.
Right.
It's a rainforest specialist boobook, only found up there. People would love to make it a different species, but they did a paper a couple of years ago that analysed the genetics and the vocalizations,
Right.
and there's near to no difference. So
And I would imagine
we would love it too, but it's not.
I would imagine if you put a bunch of domestic beetles on them and actually looked at the morphological differences in morphometrics of the skull and the bones rather than just the coloration, probably would find that they're a lot more similar than people think they are from the outside.
They sound like a boobook with a cold. They do. They have a little raspy voice, but not much difference.
So I guess the conclusion here that they came to was, first of all, it's Javanica delicatula, not
Yes.
delicatula. Very important for us here in Australia. And I guess highly color polymorphic traits are a bit unsuitable for diagnostic characteristics in the Taito, obscuring the phylogenetic relationships rather than giving
Don't
us...
oversplit.
Yeah, don't oversplit. Yeah, stay lumpy.
Yeah.
rather
Stay
than
lumpy.
Be
stay lumpy.
conservative.
Yeah, wonderful. All right, cool. Well, look, I think that's about it for new research at the moment, guys. Anything else we want to plug before we're out of here? Obviously, if anybody wants to jump on birddata.birdlife.org.au and get the Bird Data app as well as the eBird app. That's by the way, guys, the Bird Data app is actually the long-running Birds in the Backyard and BirdLife Atlas projects kind of jammed together into one. So that and eBird both really good, as well as Atlas of Living Australia and Frog ID, all fantastic if you're running around out there as a naturalist. And anything else, guys?
I think we've covered it all.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, if they do lump sooties and lesser sooties back together, they'll always be separate species in my heart.
It's good to know, man. He's
Closing
not,
message from Matt.
Yeah,
Thanks.
he's
Message
denying.
for the sooty owls.
He's in denial.
Message for all the sooty owls out there.
Yeah, it's denial. That's right. All right, guys. Thank you so much for this. Has been super interesting. And
Nice,
obviously,
thank
if you guys do happen to get out there with us at some point, hopefully we can get
Make
out,
it happen.
do a
we'll
little
make it happen.
owling Faunagraphic in the field. Guys, you can check out Faunagraphic at faunagraphic.com.au and at Faunagraphic on Facebook and _ Faunagraphic on Instagram. That's it for us, guys. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, all that other stuff. Much more wildlife cake and cocktails coming at you soon. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, hopefully we'll be owling before too long.
Yes,
Thanks
definitely.
again.
Thank you.
It's been awesome.
Ow. We need to get you more owl cocktails. All right, everybody. Cheers. Thanks again for joining us. We'll be back soon with much more. Cheers.
Thank you.
Were you saving that from the beginning?
Yeah.